Hey, everybody, welcome back to Home Dad Chat. Thank you for joining us for a new episode. This is going to be a fun one tonight as it is becoming the March Madness time of the year. And I know that right now, some of you can't see me because you're probably listening to this, but I'm actually more prepped for baseball season than I am for college basketball. But tonight, we're going to be talking with Mike Wickett, and he is all about sports. He's got a few podcasts on it, and he's just a wealth of knowledge and talking about sports. So we've brought him on to just talk about just all things sports geekdom and just having a good time with that. And I've also got my co-host Danny with me tonight. Danny, how are you doing?
Just waiting for you to take a breath, man. No, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. You said nobody can see it, and I have to ask. So you got to tell people though what kind of shirt you're wearing, because is that a Reds?
It's a personalized Cincinnati Reds jersey.
You're that
said
guy.
It was a sports team though.
It's got, hey man, you know how many World Series that they won back in the
I don't know. Is it more than the Braves?
I don't know.
They're okay, aren't they?
I don't know. But no, it's a
that's it. That's all I'll do, man. I'll stop right there.
No, it's a personalized jersey. It's got a patch to Joe Nuxall when he passed away on here.
Oh, that's cool.
It's got my last name on the back of it, and then it's got the number 5 for the month that my wife and I were married. My wife has the other jersey with the day 19 for the day that we were married. So we like to wear them to go to the game, and so we're that couple.
Well, but having that personalized jersey, I have to say, even just seeing my kids running around on the soccer field with Mercer on the back of it, I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I get it, man. I love that too. And
I figure I'll never see my last name down on the field,
right?
So
exactly. Might as well just wear it out, So yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, we've got Mike with us here tonight. Mike, how are you doing, man?
I am well. Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I'm much more excited about college basketball than baseball. Not that I'm not excited for baseball, but I have to live in the now. And right now, we are hours away from March Madness, and we're still weeks away from baseball. So much more of a hoops nut, especially right now. I wish I would have known. I would have thrown on my Milwaukee Brewers jersey, my Ryan Braun jersey. We could have had an NL Central rivalry. Screw the guy in the East. We don't need him. We'll talk to him at all.
That's good.
He's a Braves fan, man. What are they? Oh, shoot. But yeah, man, I just the fact that so you are a Brewers fan, but you don't live in that area though. That's kind of interesting. So just to kind of get sort of a bearings of that, I mean, where are you currently? And tell us a little bit about like your family, because the family part is even more interesting than just the whole like, oh yeah, like I have these teams, but I don't live in that area. So give us the spiel, man.
Well, I have a 20-year career in radio. I started out I'm originally from the Detroit area, and I started working at a radio station in Ann Arbor, Michigan for 7 years. Go Blue. And then in 2007, I know you're in Ohio, so you probably hate the fact.
I'm not a Buckeye fan though. I grew up in Indiana,
Good.
So I'm a Hoosier fan.
Oh, I'm not sure if that's better or worse.
and even worse, I'm a Notre Dame football fan. So yeah, so we really do have some. All
right, Danny, you and I are going to talk for the rest of the time here on the pod.
Is his mic blocking out? I can't hear him anymore.
You know how people are always like, "Oh, college football's better when Notre Dame's good." Screw that. All right,
you're one of those guys. Okay.
So I then moved. I got a job doing morning radio on a sports talk station in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and became just enamored with the city. I loved Milwaukee, the fans, the friends that I made there, and I was there for almost 10 years doing the show. And then moved down to Kansas City with my wife, and I got a job at a radio station down there, a news talk station. And, very long story short, my wife got pregnant for the second time in less than a year. And she is originally from the Iowa area. She also works in radio, and she got a job offer in Des Moines. And so we kind of looked at having, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, babies 2 and 3 in less than a year. We looked at that and said, we are going to need some help. We're going to need some family around. And it just so happens that the heavens opened up, or everything happens for a reason, or whatever. Her radio station she interned at 20 years ago needed a program director, of which she was doing that job in Kansas City. Her mom still lives in the house that she grew up in Des Moines.
Wow.
It just kind of all came together. And I had to make the big career decision. Okay, do I stay working in Kansas City and she, without parents, without her sister around, without her mom around, without her brother-in-law around, do we stay in Kansas City and she does this on her own with me working? Or do we move to Kansas City? I'm sorry, do we move to Des Moines and then I become a stay-at-home father? And so we made the choice. We just looked at it financially. We looked at it just from a somebody to be around to help standpoint. Like, hey, I have to go to the dentist. Can you come over and watch the kid? Like, we don't have that in Kansas City. We had that in other parts of the country, but we didn't have a job. So it just really worked out well. Whether you believe in fate or God or whatever, that's how I got to Des Moines. That's how we are now here in the Des Moines suburbs.
That's a good just description of how someone would get to Des Moines.
Right. I mean, she's from here. She went to high school here. She went to Iowa State. She's a Cyclone. And she left and she went to Chicago and then up to Milwaukee and then met me and we went to Kansas City. I mean, I think if you wanted to, guys, that alone could be 35 minutes. The story of how we met, got to Kansas City, and then wound up in Des Moines. But that's the short version, the very short version.
So with the first kid, what year was the first? It was your daughter, right?
Yeah, our daughter Britton was born January 23rd of 2019.
2019, and then the boys were born in when?
The boy and girl.
Girl. Okay.
The twins were born January 6th of 2020. So 50 weeks later. It's 3 babies in a year. It's Irish triplets. For 2 weeks out of every year, the babies are the same age. So in that 2-week span in January, awesome. People say, how old are your kids? And I'll say 6, 6, 6, or 12, 12, 12, or whatever.
You tell you got 6, 6, 6, and you're gonna have people running in the opposite.
There will
direction.
be that one 10-day span when it will be a thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and kudos too for surviving twins, because I don't have twins at all, but it is just. I mean, I can imagine. I had 2 kids at the same time, and just 2 kids in diapers just almost wrecked me. But having 2 that entire time, and now you've got
3 in diapers
the whole time. Kudos, man. That's a hill to climb.
Thank you. We're down to about 22 diapers a day, and that's the low number it's been since the twins. You know how it is when they're first born. You're up to 40 diapers a day.
You just have do you just have a Pampers semi truck that just like comes out in front of the house and we're like, burp, burp, we got your delivery.
We prefer Costco diapers for several reasons. We're very partial to Costco, mostly because of the bulk and the diaper sale that happens there every year. You can save $7 on every box once a year.
Nice.
I mean,
wow.
There was a 5-day span, about 1,700 diapers, and it lasted 6 weeks. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine. That is wow.
Well, and
your diaper genie is getting overworked.
You know, because when one goes, even if they're a little bit older, when one goes and one of the other siblings, oh, Dad's changing diaper. Well, I'm going to get down there too.
I would
whether you need it or not. You know, it's like an assembly line.
I mean, today, before they all went down for just today, I mean, what you're talking about is exactly right, Danny. I mean, right before bedtime, it was poop, poop, pee. I'm like, well, here we go. And it was, you know, and you have to do it. And nap time, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but nap time is my favorite 2 hours of the day. I love them, but where they all go down, because the twins are still napping in the morning. All 3 nap from 12:15 till, if things go well, 2. Doesn't always work that way. But what you're talking about, it's like, yeah, you know, these kids just, it's strange. The more they eat, the more they poop. Whoever would have thought that?
Who knew?
And they keep getting bigger and eating more and pooping
eating
more.
Yeah.
In my head, I just keep having the words 3 under 3 running through my brain. I'm like, and it's making my head hurt. I can only imagine how you feel.
Well, when we signed on here before we started recording, I'm like, is it cool if I drink this beer? And
I'm like, you deserve
You're
it,
in
brother.
good company. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I have
Get
2. I have 2, and I poured me some larceny, dude. I got some bourbon here. So
I get it. No, I totally understand it. And when, you know, the twins were going through their first year and our oldest Britton was under the age of 2. I mean, to have 3 under 2. And 2 of them were I mean, it's completely different than it was before. 2 of them at the time were immobile. Now they're all walking. The oldest is running. Like, a lot changes physically, mentally for me as I watched them grow. And that's why I'm going to take another drink of this beer right here.
Yeah. you go for it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for all that information. That's awesome. Go ahead, Danny.
I was going to say one of my very good friends bought me a bottle of very good scotch, and he brought it to me, and I'm like, oh wow. When my first kid was born, and he said, this is for all those times, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Because this first kid, I don't know anything.
Right.
And he said, just here, get a Sharpie. And when she takes her first step, or when she, whatever, just, you want to mark it on there. And I'm like, oh, that's very sweet. And he goes, no, you wait. About 10 years from now, you'll be putting a mark on that bottle, and you'll be mad at me that I was so right in giving you scotch early on, because it was just those times where you're just like, I'm done. I love you, but no, we can't do whatever it is we're doing. No more Baby Shark. Sorry, or Gummy Bear, whatever the song is this week.
When that 7 o'clock hits, the twins go down for bed around 6, and the oldest goes down to bed at 7 right now. When that door shuts at 7, you guys know how this is, I'm sure. I'm not sure if you're married or not. I am.
Oh yeah.
We shut the door. One of us always puts the oldest, and the other one is upstairs getting ready to do work or whatever. You shut the door, you walk upstairs, and just kind of look at each other, and you don't say anything for like 2 minutes, and the silence is the greatest sound in the world. When you guys were going to become stay-at-home dads, and Brock, I probably asked you this when you joined me on my podcast, but I don't remember the answer. What did people say to you? What did friends say to you, coworkers, if you were working at the time, say to you when you're like, yeah, I'm quitting my job to stay at home with babies?
For me, honestly, everybody that I told was very supportive of it. And so like even the people, like when I left work to come be at home with the kids and I told them that I was doing that, like, I think the guys were a little bit like, hey, that's great. I couldn't do that. The ladies that were there were like, this is awesome. Like, I think you're going to do really well at it. And then friends of ours, I mean, everybody was just like, yeah, this is a perfect fit for you and your family type of thing. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, we sat down, and I will say, before I answer that question directly, we sat down, my wife and I, we just had our second child, and we were talking about it. We're sitting on the porch, and I was like, we need to have somebody to stay home. It's just how we need to do it. We want a house to be, like you said, if someone gets sick, I can't take a day off. You can't take a day off. So we got to have somebody. We don't have anybody that we could really get to us, at that short notice. And then also we want, when the kids come home from school, we want the house to be, the lights on, music playing, food cooking, and all that stuff. And I said, honey, I really appreciate you being willing to sacrifice your career to stay home with the kids. That is the greatest thing. And she slides my scotch over to me and she goes, not me. And I'm like, well, who? Because I can't do that. So don't do that, But other than that little hiccup, most of the people that I've talked to is about what Brock said. I mean, all the guys are like, man, they're either I could never do that, or they're, man, I wish I could get that job. And I think I have never had a job that's more demanding than being a parent. This is relentless. I mean, I ask guys these days, and I have like a lot of the younger dads too in our national network, or they'll ask questions like, well, what do you say when, somebody's trying to, give you some guff or whatever about, how many hours they work in a day and how hard they work. And you could tell they're just kind of bowing up on you, even if they're not doing it on purpose. And I said, just look at them and go, so what time do you usually get home from work? Because I haven't in 14 years, 12, 13 years. I have never gotten home from work. It's just here all the time, but other than that, really, especially like Brock said about all of the moms, especially stay-at-home moms that have done it for years and years and years, some of them are just, oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad. Others are like, more of a really, I love to see the dads having to do this now so that because you have to share the pain kind of thing. But it's all been really good. Especially, I expected a lot of blowback, not from my family, but from living in rural Georgia.
See, that's what I would think that Mike's probably dealing with out in Des Moines. What's it like out there for you?
Oh, I don't know. Because I don't leave.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now, of course, yeah.
I mean,
I've been outside.
I always tell people that I was quarantining before it was cool, because
most of us were.
I did this December 2019 is when I started, and then COVID really took effect and took a hold of the country and the world, a month later or whatever. When we made the decision and told my parents, my wife was so worried that my dad was going to be really upset with her. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to my son? My family's been really supportive. I think my friends have just been like, really? Because my past wasn't exactly family oriented. This has been a complete culture shock. When I told coworkers this is what I was doing, or friends that this is what I was doing, other stay-at-home parents that this is what I was doing, they said, it's incredibly hard. And I said, and they were right. They were all right.
Yes.
I mean, I knew.
Wait, how many days or weeks did it take you for you to be like, oh God, I was totally wrong?
When it was just me and the one, because I did this in December, and the babies were born on January 6th. So for that first month, okay, we had just moved into a house. Like I spent half my time unpacking everything because I have an 8-month pregnant wife with twins. She can't exactly do a lot in terms of lifting boxes. So thank God my mother-in-law.
It goes there. It goes there.
Yeah. I mean, my mother-in-law would stay with my wife and the baby, and I would, for 9 hours, just unpack boxes. So from that aspect, it was kind of like, okay, this is, when it was just me and the baby, it was fine. I mean, she wasn't one yet. When the twins were born and my wife went back to work, like that, when the twins were born, they do overnight feedings and it sucks, but it was so reminiscent. It was still in my brain from a year ago.
Yeah.
But when she went back to work, that's when it really got difficult. It got more difficult when they started crawling. It's even more, it's more physically demanding now, not as much mentally on me, now that they're all walking and can go to different parts of the lower room play area that we have.
Yeah.
Would you say that, I mean, with everything that you have going on with the kids and stuff, but would you say that the time on like the talk radio and the podcast are like a sort of a mental, like just escape from everything for you? Or is it how does that play into your just sort of mindset on things?
I loved my job. I never had a job. I had a hobby that I got paid for. I mean, for 17 years of my career, I talked sports for a living. I mean, if you're a dude who grew up a sports fan, who wouldn't love that? I was in 2 markets that were super fun. And then after that, I went down and tried news talk, which was a little less fun, but still, I was on the radio. It's what I loved to do since the 7th grade when I used to listen to a morning show and record it. So I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up when I was in the 7th grade. I loved my job forever. I do some freelance news in a small market in Indiana, just outside of Bloomington. I do the podcast, as you mentioned, Brock. And I've done some freelance work on different radio stations, filling in on talk shows in Milwaukee and Sacramento and down in Kansas City. And then I've just started working at a sports talk station, kind of starting out here in Des Moines. And look, I think you guys can agree. We love our kids.
Yes.
We love our family. But
when, that's a big but.
When I get a chance to, if you guys haven't figured out, when I get a chance to get behind a microphone, talk, tell a story, crack jokes, listen to other people tell their stories, it's like I'm doing my career all over again. And I had that brief 1-year semi hiatus. So it's really, it's my 3rd favorite thing in this world. It's my wife, my kids. And then radio was my passion. So yeah, it's definitely that break. It's that love. It's that, the whole day could totally suck. But if I'm recording an interview for my podcast, check out my dad pod, which Brock was on. Danny, maybe you're a Braves fan. We'll see.
Yeah.
But that's like my release, my escape from everything.
That's awesome. I couldn't agree more. That's how I am.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to go as far into radio as you have, but the high school that I went to actually had a radio station, and I was on the radio for 2 years doing just like music DJ, but I'd get to talk back and forth with another guy. And it wasn't until, 3 years ago when I got back behind the mic to start my podcast up that I was like, oh man, I have so missed this. This is so much fun. And then Danny came on. He was like, hey, we should really do a podcast for the org. And I was like, yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah.
And so it's been awesome. And I agree wholeheartedly. You could have the most crappiest day and it's like, hey, I get to actually get behind the microphone and talk to somebody else. And then I walk out of the office / studio here. And my wife is just like, it must have been a good interview. And I was like, it was just a great conversation.
Yeah. And people,
sorry.
All right. I'm a little jealous. Just saying, it's fine. You enjoy. Sip one for me.
You got
But
it. The back
will
half
say-
of this interview is going to be amazing.
We're going all
I know,
up
we
in
haven't
the
even got
weeds.
it. We haven't even got into the
We haven't even
sports
talked
part.
about
Jesus,
sports.
warming
We
up,
haven't
fellas.
really named anything. We're just like, yeah, babies, right?
Oh man.
I do think it's funny that I always often hear people that will say, they turn on the mic and I get ready and I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And I'm thinking, I have no idea what that's like.
No.
If you give me an opportunity to, I tell myself in my brain, shut up and listen. No. Let them talk. Listen to what they're saying. Don't talk over them. Don't keep talking. Because I get so excited. I told Brock last week or a couple weeks ago when it was, I'm like a big golden retriever. You get excited about something. I get excited. Let's talk about this thing. I love this thing. And I can't imagine because we talk a lot about self-care, or at least I talk a lot about self-care and mental health and things like that. And I can't imagine what I would be like without the ability to sit and talk with Brock. With this mic and with you, Mike, and with our other guests, and just to have that opportunity for me is the greatest self-care I think I do for myself all week. Like you said, once you get that, even if you had a bad day, yeah, let's do this. We'll have fun.
And the thing too is, like, right now, throughout all of 2020, there wasn't an opportunity for anyone to go out and really do anything. So if you played, maybe if you played golf and your state allowed you to play golf, or, whatever your thing was, if you were restricted from doing that. And then in my case, I had just moved to Des Moines. I don't know anybody in Des Moines. So it was like my brother-in-law, the one buddy I did have here, moved to Madison, Wisconsin, like 3 months after we got here. I'm like, thanks, bud. But I don't have anybody here. And I'm not, we moved here. We didn't move here for my social life. We moved here for the babies. So it really has been difficult to find that mental health break, to find that self-care opportunity. And that's kind of why I started up both podcasts and reached out to people and started doing freelance. I mean, this studio I'm talking to you in, I built into my closet right now, because that's how much I needed this release, this escape. And and it has provided some, some break and some financial benefits for the family too. Like I said, I do some work around the country, but you need it. Kids can be the worst. All right.
Yeah.
And you just need that.
I gotta get you connected with one of the guys I know there in Des Moines that's also a radio personality. His name's Tony Conrad. He's on KJJY 92.5.
Okay. My wife probably knows who he is. I don't know too much about the radio around
It's
here.
a country radio station. He's been on it for like a couple decades. So
oh gosh, okay.
His daughters are, I think they're both in high school now or something like that.
I dream of that. I dream of kids being in high school.
and he's a dance dad. So it's really cool. Like they're a part of that. Actually, I just interviewed him for my show, and I've got backlogged on all these different people I got to edit, but he's really cool to talk to. I've known him for a while. He's actually the guy who does the intro and outro for my show.
Oh,
his voice is who you hear when you listen to the show.
He's got a good voice.
Yeah,
I like that.
But so that's cool. And I have family that live out that way too. We're going to be coming through Des Moines actually this summer when we come back from our road trip. So yeah, there's a possibility of stopping maybe for like a meal or something. And so we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, let me know, man. I mean, I would love to get away.
Hey, you'd be coming around other kids because my kids would be there. So, but
no. My kids are sticking. It's fine. We'll leave them. We'll go to the bar. Whatever. It's fine,
right? Yeah. There's a playground near the bar.
Right?
They'll be fine.
Yeah. And if there's not, we'll build a playground around a bar. There's $1 million idea.
That is $1 million idea.
Right
Good
there.
job.
That's what it is. Yeah. Oh shoot. Well, I want to segue into talking about sports because honestly,
that'd be neat on our Sports Geeking Out show.
We're there. Yeah.
Sweet.
No, but so like you said, it's March Madness season, and when this actually will air, the first round will be through because that starts on Saturday. So Monday when this airs, the first round will be done with or whatever.
The first round will not be done on Monday. The first round ends on Monday. There are games played on Monday.
Oh, that's right. They've changed it up.
They moved the schedule back a day, which totally sucks and threw off my last sports podcast I did, because if you drank every time I screwed up the day, you'd be hammered.
Well, here's the thing, and I think that this is what we were what would go with this is the fact that I used to love watching sports. I mean, I grew up going to IU, and I grew up watching the Reds play, and Notre Dame and all this different stuff, and I was always into like the March Madness and everything else. And it was like, as soon as kids came into the mix, it was like, nope, I'm going to put the brakes on all that. And it was really hard to actually sit down. The only time I got to really watch sports was if the kids wouldn't go to sleep and I could lay on the couch with them and try to put them to sleep while watching like a baseball game or something like that.
I have noticed that I don't watch as much of anything that I used to watch religiously, sports or, I mean, I was a movie nut along being a sports nut. And COVID took away movie theaters,
Yep.
but I don't sit at home and watch movies like I used to. I think the last movie I saw in the theater was the last Star Wars movie, and it sucked.
Well, what's hard for you though is you've got little ones just running around everywhere. See, mine are old enough; they'll sit down and actually watch a movie with me.
You guys are talking about things I'm dreaming of.
It's coming, Mike. You just
it's wait. On its eventually. Someday they'll be out of diapers.
Yeah, and people are always like, "Oh, you're gonna miss it." No,
you're not.
No, I got plenty of pictures and videos of them being cute. I'm good.
No, what you'll do is you'll go to the zoo the one time and you'll have like just a bag that has snacks and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Or go to a baseball game and be like, this is awesome. I don't have to carry a dang diaper bag with me.
Yeah, I would love to do that. The one sporting event I do get to watch regularly would be Packer football. When the Packers play on Sunday, because of my podcast, Wickett on Wisconsin, I would do a bunch of stuff on the Packers. And my wife, bless that woman's heart, because especially if the Packers played a late game, they play like the second game of the day. They're asleep until 2:15. I'll hang out with her for an hour, but then when the Packers kick off, I have to leave. And she watches all three. Other than that, like I used to watch a lot of NBA basketball. I used to watch a lot of college basketball during the regular season. I just don't have time. I don't have the energy. It'll be on Saturdays on the TV upstairs. Like if I'm running back and forth when the kids nap, I'll sit and watch like all these conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament that have happened. I'll catch them. But I mean, in Mike Wickett's prior life, on that first Thursday of the NCAA tournament, I would get off the air wherever I was working and I would go drop the car off because I didn't need to be driving. And I would go get drunk watching basketball. And it was amazing. It was my life. I don't often get drunk anymore, and I certainly don't watch basketball as much anymore.
No, and as a dad, you get that one opportunity to get the snip at the right time that you actually get the.
Well, I screwed that up,
and
Brock.
I heard about that. I heard you got a little bit too. You just kind of jumped the gun on that one. I heard by quite a few months.
I did it October 1st.
You're just bored at home with all the pandemic. You're like, why not?
Well, we wanted to get it done for obvious reasons. My
course.
wife even actually had her procedure because the babies were born cesarean. So even though she already had hers, and people said, well, you don't have to get yours. I said, well, we weren't supposed to get pregnant either time.
Right.
We are that 1%.
Yes.
And if there was going to be a person who was going to have their parts grow back and then get pregnant again down the road when we didn't want to, it was going to be me. So we both got procedures. I got mine done as quick as possible in October. I know everybody does it in March and they put the peas on their junk and watch hoops. I just don't think that was going to be an option for me. So I did it. I'm glad I did it. And the inn is closed. We are no longer producing any more children around here.
Yeah, with you.
And I know we're not really talking about this much, but honestly, I feel like things changed in a very positive way for me and my wife after that took place. It was like, it made our time to stress.
It took stress.
A lot less
stress.
Let's say stress. A lot less latex, but
it also like, it was just like, hey, like we can actually enjoy this fully type of thing. So like, so you were talking about like, you're the 1%, like it would probably happen to. There's a guy that I know is a stay-at-home dad who he also went through the procedure and he ended up getting like sick and was in the hospital for a while and he never got the final like thumbs up okay from the doc of like, hey, you're all clear. And then like after he got to feeling better, they had a little celebratory time, and then found out a few months later that they were pregnant after he had the procedure.
Oh.
So they had a surprise me baby after all that. So
my wife would
there's
have
that one.
killed
There's
me.
there's
My wife
that
would
one
have
too.
stabbed me with a fountain pen that she personally picked out from like Germany or something. She would
So
just be
who's-
like, I bought
The
this.
only story. Yeah, go ahead.
Whose fault is that? Like, isn't that on him
For
to
not
make
getting
sure,
checked? Yeah.
to
Oh, yeah.
make sure his pipes were cleaned before
yeah.
he went back in for more
yeah,
plumbing?
Definitely. The only other one I heard was better, and that was a buddy of mine out of Indianapolis who they already had 5 kids, and they were like,
Oh,
we're
God.
done. And he's former Army, and he was waiting for the VA to give him their like scheduled time that he was going in. And the day before he was scheduled for it, his wife walks in and goes, guess what? And they have 6 now. And he's like, I'm still going in tomorrow.
Listen,
Yeah.
Danny,
Yeah.
bro,
Yes.
He's
I
building
see
a baseball team.
I see people on the Facebook page, on the network Facebook page, talk about how they have 4 and 5 and 6. Listen, my 3 are insane. I don't understand. I love them.
Danny's
I
got
don't
4.
understand. 4, Danny? How do
Yeah,
you,
man.
how,
I would have had 10.
really,
had
you're that?
hands
Because
down.
I know
I'm that
people have
guy.
told me that.
Yeah.
We were done at 2. No, we weren't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you thought you were. And again, the God or universe, the flying spaghetti monster came along and went, no.
Why didn't you have more, Danny?
Age. The last one, the pregnancy was kind of iffy with my wife, and
Sure.
like I'm 52 now, and my youngest is 6, I think. So
Okay,
so I
gotcha.
was in my mid 40s, but my wife was really more the concern. She has, which is honestly, I love this, but she has chronic low blood pressure, which I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing, right? And I have look at my face. I'm just talking and I got blood pressure, So I'm like, so can our kids have like just normal blood pressure?
The middle.
That'd be
Meet in the
right?
middle.
Yeah, but she she just didn't want to go through it again, and I don't blame her. She was already in her mid 30s.
Did she like being pregnant?
so-
Was she one of those women?
No,
Okay.
no. Now
Those women
in
are the
hindsight,
worst.
yeah, I'm like, how do you like this? Is hard for everybody. Just see. I mean, I had to put the bed up on like blocks in the front so she wouldn't get heartburn or whatever at night. And my wife's a trooper. My wife would, any hardship or suffering, or she's married to me, so but any pain, anything like that, she's a trooper. I mean, she can just handle it. And she was still at the point she's like, ugh, I'm not having 5. You can find another wife. I don't care. So, but I didn't get snipped until after we were going to do it after 3. So we said after when she was pregnant with our 3rd, and I'm like, 3 is good. It's a nice number. They've already outnumbered us, so we've got to kind of watch ourselves. I only have 2 hands and 3 kids. What am I going to do? But when my 3rd baby arrived, I'm holding, and the thing that my wife and I agreed on was that I could hold the baby first. It was just a thing that we did, and she was fine with it. So I'm holding our baby before she's even held her or held him. The 3rd was a boy. Yeah. And I look at her like, we really should have got that vasectomy already, because I'm not going to do it now. And she's like, oh no, you're going to have one. So,
yeah.
But I got 4. And I will say, yeah,
God bless you, man.
I known for, all my life, that's just what I wanted to do. I love babies. I love the cry they make. I love the smell of, like,
you want to come over to my house around 5:15?
Yeah.
That's when,
and I will.
That's when the stock is the highest.
Well, I'm right. So you got the most, this is your peak dad moment. Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking at like my sister-in-law had a baby just recently, and I'm like, hey, I know COVID's going and everything, and you live in Minnesota and I'm in Georgia, but can I come up and just take care of your baby for you anyway?
I don't know if there's 2 more opposite states in the union than Georgia and Minnesota.
Right. Right. And my wife comes down here, and it is hilarious the way, like we met and everything. And she hated me. I know you guys will not believe this, but she thought I was an arrogant a-hole.
No,
I can't.
Danny,
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Way,
What is
Danny.
that? What is that? But yeah,
Fake news.
She said, I am never going to talk to that blank and blank again. And I was just like, some stupid college chick. I don't care what she says, because I'm 10 years older than her. So I'm like, what are you, like 12? Get out of here. Go get a job. I was like a total jerk, but it wasn't that bad, but it was, but she came down here and I'm like, I don't even understand what you're saying half the time. You use these words like, oh, let me get by you. Oh, let me get by you. Yeah.
See, Danny's one of those guys at Home Dad Con that you hear talking about multiple kids. You're like, I'm going to go drink for you right now. See you later.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great. But, I will say what I want to say too, before we might actually talk sports. I don't know. We're almost out of time, but for having the kids and where you are now, you're at the hardest parts of it. You've really done the hardest part and you're just working your way to the end of that tunnel, so to speak. But think about this. In the next couple of years, you're going to be able to watch games. You're going to have a kid old enough to bring you a beer.
Oh,
and you're going to have
that mini fridge that's full of yogurt and fruit is going to be restocked real quick.
Got some beer in that thing. And they're going to cheer for your teams.
Yeah. Darn right they are. And if not, they're out.
Right. Yeah. There's no need for you to be here anymore. When my little girl, she was 5 and she stands up in front of the big screen, the big flat TV, and she goes, Atlanta United. And I'm like, yes, Atlanta United. It was beautiful. It's beautiful, man. So you just wait. That moment's coming. This is just an investment right now. You'll get there.
That's what I hear.
Well, that's what I got to take before COVID last year, I got to take my son to his first college basketball game. We went and saw UC play here in town, and
sweet.
It was so cool because we've done instructional basketball for the past couple of years, and I've been coaching with him, on it. And I was like, hey, we're gonna go to this game. A buddy of mine gave me tickets to go, and we went there. And it was the first time he'd ever seen guys that big. And we were up quite a ways still. And he's like, oh my gosh, these guys look like giants. And then, of course, like one of the guys comes down and just like dunks the ball, and he was like, whoa, what was that? And he like freaks out, and then the game started, and he was just glued. And I'm like, all right. Like
good,
we share this moment. It was so cool. I'm like, all right, we're gonna make this happen. And he likes all that stuff, baseball, and it's not so much of a like, hey, I like to play it. He does like to watch it. So, and he'll even sit down and watch soccer with me, like when the World Cup and stuff was on. Like he's watched that with me. So that's kind of where I get into like the sports side of things, because I'm like, all right, we can do this. And they're great at going to baseball games, and they have a blast like cheering along, like all the like da-da-da-da, charge, like they get into it.
Yeah,
it's we started taking them to those games early on. I imagine 1 with 3 would be very difficult to wrangle.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're gonna pull that. Are you allowed to tether babies together? Is that okay?
Yeah, I give you permission.
Wait, like strap one on your chest and one on each leg, and you walk in.
I feel like they're all outgrowing the baby Bjorn at this point. Like I'm not sure. Our triple stroller, if you stand it up, is taller than my wife.
You're gonna have you have to have like a triple backpack, man.
Oh my Lord. I used to do that with like a box of Franzia on the back and a 12-pack in the front. And not the same. Not the same anymore. No.
Now it wiggles around and throws up on you. So
yeah, I used to wiggle around and throw up, and now it's totally them.
You need that big box that the beer man carries around with him with all the beers in it, and you can just set all 3 kids inside of there. Like
I just want the beer man to carry me around. So we're
oh shoot. So so sports wise, out of all the different ones that you cover, because it seems like football, baseball, and basketball are kind of like your sports. Which one of those how would you rank those for you? Like
to watch, to cover,
just in general, not so much like from your like favorite sports, like out of those or whatever. How would you rank those?
If I were to rank the baseball's 3rd for me, it always has been. I'm from the generation that just finds baseball boring. But when you get into it, when you follow a team, I used to cover the Brewers on a daily basis. And so when I would go in the clubhouse and talk to the guys, and you'd be at the stadium and you're in the press box, you become much more involved. It's kind of like, I used to be a very big NASCAR fan. I'm not a NASCAR fan anymore, for several reasons. But people used to say, how can you be a NASCAR fan? I said, treat it like you treat any other sport. Pick a favorite driver, just pick one. It doesn't matter who it is. And in the time I was following, it was Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Dale Jarrett was coming to the end, like that era, early to mid 2000s. Like that was my era of
Jimmy
NASCAR.
Johnson,
late 90s, 2000s. Yeah, exactly. He was a rookie. I remember the commercial. You ready to win? And it's the same way. It's like if you get involved with whatever sport it is and you follow it, you'll become a fan. The NFL and the NBA and college basketball and college football, I can't put them in an order. It depends whatever season it is. Like right now in March, I'll tell you the college basketball is the greatest thing. I think in a month from now, I'll tell you the NBA, man, the product between what you saw in March and what you're seeing here in June, it doesn't even come close. When you get to the fall on Saturdays, I wake up and watch College Game Day, and then, well, I used to, but now I would like to see pieces of College Game Day, and then I watch college football all day. Can't really do that anymore. One day, Danny told me it'll happen, but then Sundays happen, and it's like, oh, fantasy football and everything that goes on with the Green Bay Packers and getting to the Super Bowl, like that grabs me. So it's somewhere in one of those four that is the number one for me in terms of ranking sports. Again, baseball, it can be entertaining to me, but it doesn't compete with college pro football and basketball.
Oh yeah, sure. No, definitely. I can understand that completely. My wife and I we like going to the Reds games because they're just convenient and whatnot. But
tickets are always available for Reds games. It's
they
amazing.
Are.
It's something probably cheap.
They are really cheap, actually. Probably the cheapest in the whole, out of all the other teams. They've got to be one of the cheapest.
Hey, did you buy a toaster? Have 2 Reds tickets.
I mean, it's like the Reds are probably the least popular professional sports team in the state of Ohio, right?
Probably.
I mean, because Cleveland, the Browns and the Bengals, I mean, the NFL, the Indians, I imagine, are pretty popular because they're really good. I don't know if the Cavaliers are popular without LeBron anymore, but Reds, good seats available. Come on down.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, totally. Unless there's a good team that's coming into town.
Right.
When they were talking about how, and I got really excited because they were like, yeah, we're going to have 30% occupancy for games. And I'm like, yes, I'm so excited. I get to go see them.
It's a normal game.
Well, so my first reaction was, yes, I get to go to the game in person, which I was really excited about. The next thing I was like, wow, it's going to be feeling about like it does normally at a game.
Yeah.
That 30%, that's about what's usually there.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm sure if the Cubs come in or the Yankees or the Red Sox or whatever,
it'll be harder to get.
The Cardinals are probably a really good,
a
really tough ticket to get. Sure. I understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a few interleague teams that you get from time to time. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's definitely how that works out. Sometimes the Yankees come in and play. That's a interesting game too. So you want to see those big names play in the team.
I hate the Yankees. It's like Notre Dame. Like, who gives a rat's ass about the Yankees or Notre Dame or any of them?
Killing me, man. You're killing me. Rudy.
Oh, Rudy sucked, by the way, and he was offsides.
I know. Gosh, Jesus, it's all about it. Okay. Oh, dude. Yeah. So, well, and for me, I've got soccer scarves on my wall, so I'm more getting excited too about FC Cincinnati's new stadium and getting to see some Major League Soccer in a legit Major League Soccer stadium this year. So, and my wife actually enjoys going to those games, so that's another fun thing too, because typically she's not a huge sports fan. So, anytime to get her to something is always good. Is your wife into sports at all?
My wife went to Iowa State.
Okay, she's a Cyclone. That's right.
She enjoys 2 sporting events every year: the Cyhawk game between Iowa and Iowa State in the first or second week of the college football season, and the hot dog eating contest on 4th of July. That's it.
The Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
That she is a wealth of information and knowledge about the big. I don't know when she has time to research this, but she does. She knows all the names, not just Kobayashi and Chestnut. She knows all of them. And I looked at her, I said, how do you know this? And she said it's her favorite sporting event of the year. Wow. Is the hot dog eating contest, which we could take a million directions, I'm sure. But I watch it and I about want to throw up. I think it is the grossest thing ever. But she likes it. And people say, well, Mike, do you like watching football with your wife? And I said, no, I don't. And I don't want her to like the NFL. I don't want her to be a Packers fan. I don't want her to watch the NBA because that's my 2 and 3 hours away from her. You know what I mean? I love my wife. I am probably here today because of my wife, survival wise, for a number of reasons. But when the Packers are on or I'm watching football or whatever, she can go to her sisters with the kids. I don't care. I don't care if it's just me alone or it's if you guys came over, whatever. I'm fine with nobody being around me, including my wife, when I'm watching football or basketball or whatever.
Yeah.
I agree. I usually get ridiculed for yelling at the TV, and I usually hear they can't hear you anyway.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I don't
care.
care. Does not matter. I don't
Yeah.
care. Do you want me to yell at you? No, I want to yell at them.
Yeah, you can choose. Well,
Why did Rodgers run the ball in?
That was a foul. How did you miss that? Yeah, exactly.
Just like your father. Yeah, I know I am. I
Yes,
understand
am.
it.
That's
Oddly
where I
enough.
get it from. Yeah, amazing how that works.
And guess what our kids are going to be like?
Yeah. You're right.
It's
She's
coming.
like, Miles, our son, Miles is going to be in show choir. No, he's not. He's going to be.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I mean, he probably will be. It's fine. It's totally cool. Whatever gets him a scholarship. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. For tuba. Let me just tell you, tuba.
Tuba,
Nobody uses tuba scholarships.
Women's
It's amazing.
golf, women's,
Ooh, good one,
women.
yeah.
I mean, women's. I got two girls, and there are. COVID took away a lot of those scholarship opportunities, but there are so many sports where they just give scholarships to high school girls who aren't very good. But who cares? It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I hear you there. I had there was a girl I went to high school with. She got a full ride to college for golf. So I mean, she wasn't bad, but still, I was just like, really, a full ride? Like, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're gonna push them soon.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not going anywhere after that. She's like, no, I know, but I'm getting a full ride.
Yeah,
Right. It doesn't matter.
I don't
whatever.
need to be on the LPGA tour. I just don't want to
Right.
pay for college for 4 years.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So it worked
Yep.
out that way. So, oh man, where was I going to go with this? We're having so much fun just jawing it up. So here's what I'm wondering. I heard on your show Wickett World, because I was looking through some of your stuff on Facebook, that you have Iowa picked to go deep.
Yeah.
Into the bracket. Like, did you have them going? Are they in the? Did you have them in the Final Four?
No. I have them going to the Sweet 16,
Sweet
and,
16.
and maybe the Elite 8. I just think they're this Iowa team, watching them play down the stretch. They had about a six or 7 game stretch before March that included Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin twice, Michigan State, who we thought was good. I still don't know if they're very good. I have no idea what to make of Michigan State. But Iowa could have gone 2-5 in that stretch. They actually went like 6-1, and their only loss was in Ann Arbor to Michigan, who was the number 3 team in the country at the time.
Mhm.
I think Iowa has figured out a lot. I said earlier in the year on my show, this Iowa team needs to learn how to win big games, and they have to learn how to play defense. So within the last 6 weeks of the season, they switched to a more man-dependent defense as opposed to a zone defense, which means you have a lot more individual responsibility. You can't just sit there with your arms up. You have to guard, and then when the ball is up in the air off the rim, you have specific assignments to find your guy and box your guy out. They have really changed their defense. Do I think that they are the 5th best team in the country? I don't know. But I think that they're not going to see Michigan, Ohio State, and Illinois the first 3 games of the NCAA tournament. Their first game is against Grand Canyon.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't know Grand Canyon was a school. I had no
didn't either. I still don't.
I had no clue. I read a blog about them, and they kept referring to them as the Lopes. And I said, I don't know what that mascot is. And then I sounded like an idiot on my podcast saying, I don't know what the Lopes or the Lopez, because they're in the southwestern part of the state. Perhaps it's a Hispanic name. I don't know. It's short for antelopes.
Antelopes. Okay.
Felt like a moron.
They're gonna be like that team from a few years ago that was like a 16 seed and comes out of nowhere and just starts annihilating people. Was it the Appalachian or something like that?
It was Maryland, Baltimore County that beat Virginia. And if that happens, my listeners, my brother-in-law, and 70% of this state are going to be very upset that Iowa loses. They should get past Grand Canyon. And I haven't memorized the bracket totally to figure out who they face next, but they're the number 1 offensive team according to the Ken Pom rankings. They're super efficient. They've got good scores. They have the player of the year in Luka Garza in the middle, and they play above average defense. I think that's a combination to get to the Sweet 16. and we'll see what happens after that. They may run into Gonzaga again, who beat them earlier in the year, and Gonzaga is still undefeated. So I've got Iowa going pretty deep. It wouldn't surprise me if they wound up in the Elite Eight, and if they got to the Final Four, I think that would be great. The program's, the program's in good hands right now.
That's awesome. And then too, I'm curious, like, with the whole, if a team gets tested positive and they've got to drop out, I'm curious, how many teams do you think are you going to see run into this situation where they've got to they basically have to forfeit the game or whatever? How many incidents do you think are going to happen during this tournament?
I hope zero. I really do.
Too, yeah.
I hope zero. What's interesting is, let's say a 4 seed, let's say it's Villanova, who I think is a 4. If Villanova tests positive and has to pull out, Louisville is on standby.
I saw that.
Louisville is on standby, and they will become the 4 seed. They don't become some random draw. They redraw. They just become the 4, and they play the 13 that Villanova is scheduled to play, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting. What I find, the reason the tournament is all pushed back a day, which messes me up, is so the state of Indiana can have a better handle on the COVID situation. Indiana has been one of the absolute worst states. Brock, your home state has been one of the worst states in the Midwest, if not the country.
We won't get into the politics of all that, but yeah.
No, I don't. That's fine.
I'm not touching it.
Numbers are what they are, and the idea of putting this entire tournament in Indiana seems like it's a combustible explosion waiting to go awry.
Yep.
Now, they have them spread out. They're in West Lafayette. They're in Indy. They're in Bloomington. They're all over the state. But still, of all states to pick with 5 gyms, they picked Indiana to do this. And they could have done it in Minnesota, Danny. They could have picked Minnesota, where they had a good handle on this. Mm-hmm. But instead, they picked Indiana, the home of basketball. I know, Brock, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I think too, the fact that they're also they all can fly into Indianapolis International, and you can get
one airport.
Yeah. and they can get to all those stadiums within like a couple hours easily to each one. It's not a far drive to any of them.
I actually kind of like it. I mean, it's kind of neat and quirky and fun, but the fact that it's COVID in Indiana, which sounds like a musical. Yeah, it is. And I hope that, in a week, we're not talking about, did you see that Ohio State had to, bounce out? Well, screw Ohio State. Did you see that Virginia had to bounce out of the tournament? Or did you see that such and such had to leave because of COVID and forfeit games?
The Lopes aren't going to make it.
Right. No, I don't even know what's going on in New Mexico or Arizona or wherever it is.
Their record last year was 13-17.
Was it?
Jeez. I looked it up because I'm like, who? Grand Canyon.
They're better this year. They won their conference tournament. They have the number 2 they won the number 2. They hold teams. Their field goal percentage by the opposition is number 2 in the country. So they're good defense.
Wow. Yeah.
See,
nice.
You might pronounce the mascot wrong, but if you can get the statistic right,
that's all that matters.
Oh man. Well, we've come to the end of our time on this talk for the show tonight, and I hate to say that too, because I feel like we could keep going and talking about all this stuff.
But I told you, man, you got a talk show host on the air. You and I can go 2, 3, 4 hours, guys. It could happen.
I completely
next time we
agree.
could do a sports show.
But I feel like this falls into the play of like dads who wish they could watch sports but couldn't, and this is dads who wish they could talk about sports but didn't.
If you title this that's the sports episode, people are going to be very upset.
They're lying.
Wait till 27 minutes in.
It'll be the sports episode that was supposed to happen, but didn't happen.
We talked with a sportscaster. That doesn't mean we talked about sports.
Well, we got to it eventually.
Yeah, it's been really good too. I will say I would love, Mike, to have you on again.
I would. Hey, listen.
Your voice is great too. Well, I think you know that from years in casting. I mean, in radio and all that. But it's really, I heard the first time I've ever heard you. I mean, I'm from Georgia. How would I know? But I picked it up this morning and I listened to one of your podcasts. I'm like, man, yeah, that guy's a pro. You just have the intonation, the enunciation, everything that you need. And then what I was really hoping for was that energy that you've had through the whole night tonight. Just like, yeah, let's talk about the things. Seriously, sincerely, love having you here.
Well, Danny, I appreciate that very much. If you and Brock ever want to have me on again, like I told you, it's an escape. I love to do it. I love talking about my kids. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface on how
Right.
ridiculous life is for a dad with 4, a dad with 3. Brock, you have 2, correct? Is that
Right,
is
correct.
I mean, there's what's 3, 4, 7, 6, 7. There's 9 kids between the 3 of us. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. So anytime you guys ever want to have me back on, man, I am more than willing to do so. I'd love to come on.
That would be great. No, that's awesome. Yeah, and you're such a new stay-at-home dad. You fall right into that category with a lot of things that, you know, you're experiencing that Danny experienced long ago because he's old.
Back in the 1900s. Oh wait,
he's
No,
almost
it's not.
considered. He's almost
it
considered
does
one of
get
the
better,
OG.
right?
It
Is
does
he?
get-
Is he the OG stay-at-home dad?
He's in there. He's in
Yeah.
that category.
You're a
No, it
pioneer,
does-
Danny.
it
Actually,
does
Danny
get
came over
better.
with the pioneers, so that's
I did. Yeah.
No, but I know it's going to get better, Brock. I'm so glad that I got you on mine, that I've been able to join up with the network to see. When I ask about advice, most of the time, most of the responses are pretty good. Some are snarky and whatever, but
usually that Jeremy Haston guy, he can't take anything he says seriously.
but it's been so cool to be on and be part of it. And as you guys know, the adventure continues as a stay-at-home dad.
Always. Yeah, it does. Definitely. And honestly, and I always like to make this plug, but honestly, I hope that if it works out for you, you can make it to Cincinnati for Home Dad Con in October. If it works out for you, if things open up, because that would be really cool too.
I know there's a whiskey trail, which sounds amazing. Obviously you're imbibing right now. It's always one of those, you guys know how it is. You have to check with the boss. You have to make sure it's all right. But I would love to. I think Carl Wilkie, who is part of the network as well, he was on my podcast. He's out in Washington right now. That's where he was moved out to. He used to listen to me when I was on in Milwaukee and told me all about it. And he offered to let me stay in his room.
There you go.
In Cincinnati last year before COVID canceled it. So, I have no idea what October is going to be like. I have no idea what tomorrow is going to be like.
Right.
But
well, knowing Carl, I imagine that invitation still stands because he's good like that.
He is a stand-up guy. He really, he's an OG. He is absolutely
he's super tall. So
he's the tallest stay-at-home dad.
Okay. I'm 6 foot tall. I've never felt small. I really haven't. I don't feel like I'm like a big dude or whatever. He came up to me in Portland, I think, for Home Dad Con. And he goes, "Hey, man," and he gave me a hug, and I went, "Oh."
Did you hug his belly button with your head?
I mean, I'm like, "Can you just pick me up and just hold me for a while?" It was amazing. It was the safest I've ever felt in my life. It was incredible.
How's it going up there?
Yeah, exactly that.
It's amazing. And he's such a nice guy. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that. I'll be talking about him all night. So but I'm sure the offer stands. If not, I'm sure we can hook you up, man.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, cool, man. Well,
I got a floor.
Yeah, there you go. Mike, thanks for coming on the show tonight. It was awesome getting to talk a little bit of sports and a lot of fatherhood and just getting a good laugh in on top of it. And I'll have in the show notes where everybody can find the stuff that Mike's involved with being on the radio and his podcasts and all that fun stuff, because he is fun to listen to. If you've liked hearing his voice with just the stuff that we've been talking about, you'll love him on the shows that he's got going on. But thanks for coming on. And it was a pleasure getting to connect with you tonight.
You guys have a great night. Thank you again for having me.
Thanks, Mike. Good night.